Alright friends, here we are after 2 years of being a Revolut Ultra user myself. I finally come to the realization that I'm not going to extend my subscription with Ultra and will actually downgrade to a cheaper plan. And in this video, I'm going to explain you why, as well as show you which plan I'm going for. Obviously, you can jump over to Revolut, and depending on which country you're living in, you can compare the different plans, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. So I'm actually going to do that inside the app, so it's a bit easier, but we'll come back to this later on because some of the things that are shown in the app that you get with the plan are actually not complete because some of them are shown over here. So it's a bit irritating, and I'll show you also a couple of other things that I did not particularly like because I felt I was being deceived because some of the benefits were mentioned that I'm not actually getting. But anyways, we come back to this, but just keep in mind when you go to Revolut Personal and compare your plan, just make sure you go all the way to the bottom over here to select your country, right? I'm based right now in Lithuania and I have it under English, but you might be based in the UK or wherever. And different plans do have different pricing depending where you live, also different benefits. So take it with a grain of salt. But when I go through now and explain you my logic behind, probably a lot of it might apply to you as well, irrespective of where you're living and what you're paying. And why I thought it would be a good time to make the video is because actually my Ultra subscription is coming up in 2-3 days. So I was thinking really myself, irrespective of making this video or not, whether I want to extend with another year of Ultra. And I really enjoyed the last 2 years and I made videos about it, why I went with Ultra in the first place, and I had my reasons for it. However, my life circumstances have also changed. Majority of the year we live in the UAE and Dubai, where I don't really use Revolut as it's not really, supported over there. I mean, you can use it, but it's not really operating as such in the UAE. So I don't have too many use cases. Plus my business account also is based over there. So it doesn't make sense for me. So then the only time I do use it is when I come back to Europe for a couple of months. Then it makes sense to use it here because I save a little bit on foreign exchange fee. And I obviously continue using Revolut because I absolutely love the app and experience. I've been using them, I don't know, for well over 10 years, I think by now. And really, really love it. But honestly, can I justify paying right now? What am I paying? 540 euros per year for Ultra that I use, as I said, a couple of months in the year, and the rest of the time I'm really not using much of it. There are a few things I do use the whole year, but the actual day-to-day transactions and so forth and benefits I'm not maximizing. And that's why right now, honestly, I'm just not willing to pay that much money, right? That's 45 euros a month. In some other countries, it's even more, up to, I think, 50 euros, depending where you're living. So that's a lot of money, right? So yeah, as the payment is coming up, I will actually not continue, but I want to continue using Revolut, so I have to downgrade to another plan, and that's why I want to go through in this video and share with you which plan I'll be going with. Now, sure, obviously, if I quickly go through, some of the benefits I got here, for me, one of the nicest perks in the past was, of course, definitely the airport lounge access. I mean, basically, wherever I travel to, I could use the lounge before departure, usually not when you arrive. However, that has also changed because, since almost a year and a half, I stopped drinking. So let's be honest, a lot of people go to lounge to get free booze. And if you do drink, it's amazing. That's a huge perk, right? Because you don't have to pay for the booze yourself, so you save some money. Plus, you might want to eat something, but I also changed my diet, so I'm eating much cleaner. And also speaking, most of the lounges, while they're nice and private, they usually have quite junk food over there. Nothing really super nice. They've been sitting there for quite a while and really nothing super exciting. So I'd rather spend the money myself and get a fresh salad if they have around the airport something, then going to the lounge just because I get it for free to eat some junk. It just doesn't make sense for me. So ultimately what I ended up doing, because my wife is not an Ultra plan, so we used to go to the lounge, got some water bottles, maybe they had some boiled eggs, put them in my bag, and then left again. So while it was nice perk, honestly, I can really live right now without that, right? And hopefully in the future, we'll be flying more business or whatever, and then it comes with the ticket, right? By the way, if I continue growing my eToro portfolio, once you hit the highest level, you will actually get free airport lounge access from eToro to broker. I still have a long way to go to reach that, but that's my mission to get there as well. Then things like eSIM, honestly, I just never use that. I have a SIM card in the UAE and Lithuania, so I'm totally fine. If I do travel to another country where those are not covered, then usually I use an app called Nomad SIM, where I can basically, within a second, buy an eSIM, have it on my phone and use it. And 3GB is not that much also. It doesn't come with a phone number, so I honestly never took advantage of that. Of course, some of the insurances were nice, but once again, I never really used them, right? It's probably my fault. I should have. I spoke to some people who were really good at claiming things, even when they had, surgeries abroad. They really claimed all these things. So I should probably do a better job with that. But in the past, I haven't really used it. So that's why I'm also not going to be missing it. Plus, with some of the lower plans, you're still going to get some insurances. In terms of wealth planning, well, again, I'm not using Revolut for crypto or ETFs or stocks, commodity trading. If you do use it for that, maybe it makes sense, but in my humble opinion, I do think there are better options and brokers out there if you're really specifically looking after this. And especially don't trade crypto on Revolut. It's very, very expensive. I recently made a video about this. You'll find this in my Revolut playlist if you want to check it out afterwards. But yeah, don't do crypto trading on Revolut. That's just not really ideal. In terms of Rev points, honestly, once again, I never use them. I never track them. I find it a little bit confusing how I can redeem them. I have no use case for it. So that's why, obviously on a lower plan, you earn less Rev points, but I have no issue because I'm not a big fan of these kind of points. And for me, it's just too confusing. So for me, no difference over there as well. One thing I will be missing is the 100% discount fee on international transfers. And that actually used to be more valuable when I was living in Europe mostly, earn the money here and then send it internationally. Because that can really rack up. I had some transfers where you pay, 45 or 50 euros in fees, even on Wise. If you go on Wise and you do some larger transfer, you will see there's a huge fee attached to that. You can see that actually before doing the transfer. Now on Revolut Ultra, not paying anything, honestly, some month, actually what I saved in those fees paid already for my subscription. So that's cool. However, honestly now, as I said, I live in the UAE, earn my money over there in dollars. So I'm not really doing many transfers outside EU from a Revolut account, right? Mostly inside the EU. So there, I don't really have any charges and fees. So again, nothing I'm really missing over there. Fee-free ATM withdrawals. So if you do use a lot of cash, then maybe it makes sense for you. But once again, honestly, I can't remember last time I went to the ATM. So in my case, once again, nothing really too relevant. Well, and that's why I'm going to go to see plans over here. And you can basically compare all the various plans, go on to see all benefits. And here it's really nicely done how you can switch between the different benefits you get with it. And obviously, I went already through some of it, even the 24/7 priority support, the callback. It sounds nice, but I never had the need to have anyone on the phone. If I have a question, which I hardly ever have, or issue with Revolut, I can do it through the chat and it works perfectly fine. I never needed anyone to call me. So if that's important for you, maybe, but paying 45 euros for that, for me, just didn't make sense. Now, one more thing that I will be missing with Revolut Ultra is actually the cashback on my Pro payments. You can see right now I'm getting 1%, even though in the past it used to be 1.2%. So they also lowered it a little bit. But if I swipe to left to metal, for example, it's only going to be 0.8%. And then on premium, it's 0.6%. Now, honestly, I'm not even going to consider plus and standard. I don't think those plans make sense unless you're a real beginner trying out Revolut for the first time. But I think it's really a question between premium, metal, and ultra for most people, I would say. So yeah, I'm only comparing those three in this video. And well, again, it depends on how much you spend, right? If you spend 1,000 euros a month, let's say, 1% is 10 euros. It certainly doesn't pay for the 45 euros subscription that you have, right? But if you spend 10,000 euros a month, let's say, because you're running a business or whatever through it, then all of a sudden it's 100 euros and you more than pay for your plan. So that's also some numbers you have to run for yourself. But as I said, throughout the year, if I add it all up, the few months that I'm in Europe and use my card, it just doesn't make financial sense for me. In the past, I used to use it much more when I was in Europe. So my total cashback is actually 909 euros. And this month alone, 23 euros. But obviously, we just came back. We spent quite a bit. We finished our apartment. So I did have higher expenses. In general, probably it wouldn't be even that high anymore since I still continue using my UAE card for business transactions and so forth. So the monthly spend won't be that high and the cashback not that high as well. Revolut Kids and Teen accounts, you can have 5 on Ultra and also 5 on the Metal. Only 2 on the Premium. But I mean, if you can afford 5 kids, you probably can also afford Ultra plan, right? So in my case, I only have the first one on the way. So even on the premium plan, that would still cover it. And other than that, the real difference is here also when it comes to the subscriptions. So you can see these are kind of, nice services that are part of a subscription plan. And that can really make a difference, right? For example, Financial Times, I believe if you were to pay for it yourself on a monthly basis, it's around $40 or so, depending where you live, once again, which package you go for. But that alone, if you're really reading Financial Times, just going with Ultra might already make sense. But the cool thing is, I just discovered I can also read Financial Times on the Metal plan. Not so much on the Premium plan, unfortunately, but on the Metal plan, I pay way less. How much is that over here? That would be $16 a month, even less if I pay for the whole year. And I get to use Financial Times, which would be way more expensive if I signed up only for that service. So that's really nice to see. Plus, for example, NordVPN, you get complete package versus plus package on the Metal, standard on the Premium. But in my case, I use NordVPN. I love it. But actually, I'm fine even on the standard plan because I don't use all the other things. That basically gives you, also the password manager and so forth on the complete suite of solutions. But if you just want the NordVPN itself, then you'll be just fine on the standard plan. Other than that, as I said, NordVPN, Financial Times, Volt I use for delivery. You get basically unlimited free delivery, which is cool. Perplexity, Pro, I don't use much Perplexity because I'm really a big fan of Claude and ChatGPT, but time to time I try it out, and the fact that you get the pro version here for free is also cool, and that you actually get on all 3 paid plans, which I quite like. Tinder, not applicable to me. As I said, I have a baby on the way, my wife is watching, so no, I'm not going to try that out. Then you have some other apps over here, but honestly, I don't really use any of them. And here's also one thing I did not really like about Revolut, and I actually flagged that with them, and I was hoping they changed it, but they haven't. Because if I go back to the website, over here on the Ultra subscriptions that I included, all of them I've shown you before, but one is ClassPass. It's 20 credits each month, and I would have loved to use that in Dubai, for example, where they're using ClassPass in quite a few gyms, and you can access to, high rocks classes, for example, which I really love training for and so forth. Unfortunately, even it's listed over here, well, you can see it's not actually listed inside the app, meaning I don't have access to it. And even after writing to support a couple of weeks ago, quite a while actually, they reassured me, I'm sorry, I apologize, must have been miscommunication. They haven't updated the website. And I think that's a bit deceiving because you promise one subscription over here and you don't actually deliver it. And that's not really nice. Again, I wouldn't have signed up just only for Ultra because of ClassPass. But given that they mentioned it over here and don't deliver in the app, that's a bit of a shame, I would say. For sure, I'm going to change from Ultra. I'm not going to pay 45 euros anymore, given the fact that I hardly ever use most of the benefits. So the question is between Metal and Premium, which one to go for? And I was really thinking for quite a while. I mean, of course, if you go with Premium, it's 10 euros a month. If you join Premium, you can see you can pay in advance, and all of a sudden you only pay 8.33 euros, which is really quite attractive for the benefits you get. And on a Metal plan, if I go for it for a year, I would usually pay for the whole year because, in this case, I would be saving 20%. I would pay basically 13 euros per month. So what is this? Roughly 5 euros more. But the question is, what would you get more in additional benefits? So most of it are the same. In terms of ref points, here is a difference over there. Instead of 1.5 points, you get 2 points. But as I said, I really don't know even what is my balance. I don't track it. And for me, it doesn't matter. Now, the everyday benefits, you can do 800 euro withdrawal versus 400. This case really doesn't matter because I don't take cash. So for me, there's no difference. Now, one big difference is, of course, I still use my Revolut Pro card, right? So instead of getting 0.6%, I now get 0.8%. And some month I do spend a bit more. So I think that difference is not huge, but it can add up at least to more than 5 euros, which is basically the difference between the 2 plans in my case. So this little point makes me already lean towards Metal. Now, in case of Revolut Kids and Teens account, 5 versus 2, I mean, really, I have no need for that right now. Eventually, I'm going to try it out, of course, but that's still a couple of years to go. I can change it by then. The support is pretty much the same. Then international fee transfer. So again, 40% off versus 20% off. If you do 1-2 bigger transfers, that can already also cover quite a bit of the higher subscription you'll be paying. So that's definitely something else to keep in mind because still, from time to time, I might have international transfers and usually, slightly larger amounts, let's say. So here, that difference, is something to keep in mind for sure. Purchase protections and all these things are pretty much exactly the same, even with Ultra, so there's no difference over there. So that wouldn't really, pivot me either way. The no-fee currency exchange is unlimited for both. For me, very, very important because that, for example, you don't have on the Plus and Standard plan. So for me, I don't want to have to think about what limit I have. If I, travel internationally and I have a big expense, I don't want to have to worry, oh my God, now I'm going to be charged a fee or not. So that's totally fine. Airport lounge access, you also get a discount, keep in mind. So instead of paying full price, which sometimes is 35 euros, you would only pay 24 euros. But as I said, I don't see the need for it. I rather use that money and buy myself a healthy salad and a coffee at the airport. That would work for me. And the discount is pretty much the same between Premium and Metal. Global eSIM you don't have on either of the plans, but once again, is not something I see myself using. I haven't been using it for the last 2 years, so why would I start now? So there's no difference over there. Savings investments, not relevant for me. While you can use Revolut to buy stocks and ETFs, for that it's actually not the worst because now you can transfer your positions also out to other brokers. They changed that recently. But for crypto, please do not use it. As I said, it's just too expensive. And in terms of subscriptions, that's probably the biggest differentiator between the two. Most of them are pretty much the same. NordVPN, Standard, the other one is Plus, but for me, Standard is totally fine. The rest is pretty much exactly the same. All the things I need are there. The only difference is I don't have Financial Times on Premium, and I do have it on Metal. And honestly, I could probably live without it, but I really like reading Financial Times. Once a day, I usually read it. And I don't know, I just like it. And, obviously that the value is so much more if I was to pay for it only. I get it here for additional 5 euros plus the other perks. That honestly is a big swing in my eyes towards Metal. Now, as I said at the beginning of the video, unfortunately, you would think these are all the benefits you get, but when you go over to the website, you see even more differentiators, which is super weird that they do it that way, but yeah, it is what it is. So basically, we went through majority of the points over here already. But for example, one thing that wasn't really clearly mentioned inside the app is personal liability insurance, which covers you for claims up to 1 million euros for damages or injuries caused by you to a third party while abroad. So that's really reassuring to have, right? I mean, there's a huge amount. And on the Metal plan, it's up to 1 million. On the Ultra plan, it's exactly the same. But on the Premium, you don't have that. So inside the app, you think, the difference is very small. But now looking at it here, I hope not to make use of it. But knowing the fact that, again, with 5 additional euros, I would have it, in my eyes, is definitely, a good point and reassuring to have that. But then also we come to savings and funds, which once again wasn't even mentioned inside the app, which is a kind of shame, right? Because you want to upsell people to a higher plan. And you can see here the difference in the interest you get the higher your plan is. So they have different accounts, obviously, on euros, pounds, USD, and also another interest account that they recently added. And in this case, the difference between Ultra and Premium is not that big, 0.1%. But then if you go down to Premium, it would be 0.15%. So already a bit larger, not proportionally. And yeah, again, it just pivots me a little bit closer towards Metal. So yes, after long back and forth, just looking at the app, I wasn't really 100% decided. But then going back to the website, seeing the additional benefit of personal liability insurance and the high interest made me realize that paying 5 euros additionally per month is really worth it for all the other benefits on top of the higher pro cashback that I get with Metal, and of course also Financial Times access. So in my case, I will downgrade from Ultra to Metal, and I'll show you how quickly that is done. So all I do is basically click on Join Metal over here. I could either pay monthly, but as I said, I prefer to pay annually. And in this case, it will be 13 euros. Join Metal for 155 euros a year. So basically, as soon as my Ultra is up, I will then downgrade to Metal. And it reminds me of the same over here. Under Ultra, you see, switches to Metal on June 17th. Will be interesting to see how it works with the subscriptions that I have, like Financial Times and NordVPN. I hope I can keep those accounts and they will automatically downgrade me at the back end, not to have to re-register again and so forth, because technically now I'm on the lower plan, but the rest basically stays the same. So yeah, that's my decision. Hope you found this interesting and maybe go through similar logic for yourself, because everyone has different needs, right? A few years ago, when I was signing up to Ultra, it did make sense for me then. But as I said, life circumstances changes, and right now it just doesn't make sense for me. So why to pay extra if I don't really use it to the maximum? And of course, one nice perk of this change is that my monthly subscription list will go down a little bit. You can see right now I'm paying almost 1,000 euros per month for all my subscriptions. So if I go over here now into Revolut Ultra, I can just open it up over here and then change it from 540 now to 155 euros. So the monthly amount will also drop accordingly. If you like this kind of format and want to track your subscription, which I really recommend you, I'll leave a link down in the description below. It takes you to my free template, which you can use for yourself. I think it's super important because, just look how many subscriptions I have. You'll be surprised if you really write down all of them. And it also syncs with my calendar, so I can see when is something coming up. You can see over here on the calendar view, because Revolut Ultra was already synced with my calendar, so I knew it was coming up, because a lot of people forget about the subscriptions and then you'll be charged. If I didn't do this change before, I'll be charged 540 euros and boom, I would have to pay for it again. So this way I can stay on top of what's happening. I can also see my canceled subscriptions over here. So really nice tool, which I recommend you. So definitely check it out. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, check out this video over here next. As always, thanks for watching. Stay healthy, get wealthy. Let's see you in the next one. Ciao.